Good morning, student. Welcome to the online classes. I am your moral science teacher, Miss.RASHMI Singh. I am going to take your first lesson, the water fairy. Shall we start the lesson? The water fairy, lesson 1. Vishnu was a poor woodcutter. All what all what he had was an iron axe. One day he was cleaning his axe by the riverside. He dropped the axe unwittingly into the deep water of the river. He prayed to God to get back the axe. He said, I have only one axe to work with, with and that has fallen into the river. How will I cut wood? If I don't cut wood, then what my wife and children would die of hunger. Suddenly a fairy appeared from the water. The fairy asked Vishnu what he was praying for. Vishnu narrated what had happened. Then the fairy went down into the water and came up with three axes. Let's see what happened. It is a story about a person called Vishnu. He was a woodcutter and he was cutting wood. As he was cutting the wood, he slipped his axe, which went straight into the waters, and he was very sad suddenly because he had only one axe. So he started praying and he asked God, what will happen to my family, my wife, my children? How will I work without an axe? When he was praying, he told his story, and that in the river lived a fairy who had heard his narration of the story. And what happened? Let's see. The water fairy asked. Then the fairy went down into the water and came up with three axes, one golden, one silver, and the third his own axe. Now the fairy who had come up and heard the story of the woodcutter, she asked, let me go inside the water and look for your axe. She went down and she took out three axes, one silver, one gold, and one the woodcutter axe, and she brought them up to the water. The water fairy asked Vishnu which axe was his. Vishnu humbly said that he wanted only his iron axe so that he could work with it. The fairy was so happy with his honesty that she gave all the three axes to the woodcutter. Now, children, the woodcutter saw three axes. The fairy asked, choose which is your axe. The woodcutter immediately answered, the wood one is my axe. And the fairy told asked the woodcutter that she was very happy with his answer, and she returned and gave the woodcutter all the three axes because he was very honest. Vishnu sold his gold and silver axes in the market and became very rich. Now his wife and children could eat good food and wear expensive and attractive clothes. They were very happy, but still he continued to work very hard. Now, when he had got the three axes, both gold and silver axes, he sold, and his life became better, and he started to work again as a woodcutter. Vishnu had a neighbor by the name Krishna. He was a lazy and wicked man. He became jealous of Vishnu's success. He wanted to become richer than Vishnu. So he befriended Vishnu and asked him how he became rich suddenly. Vishnu, in his simplicity, explained how he lost the axe and how the water fairy had come up and helped him. Vishnu had a friend named Krishna. He was his friend, and he was very wicked man. He was a lazy person and he never worked, but he wanted to find out how Vishnu became so rich. So he went to Vishnu, and Vishnu narrated all the story, what happened to his axe and how it happened and how he became rich. And listening to his story, Krishna went and got the same thing repeated for himself. Krishna tried to copy what Vishnu had done. He went to the riverside and dropped his axe into the water. After that, he started praying to God, saying that he had lost his axe and now it was difficult for him to live. Krishna did the same thing which Vishnu did. He dropped the axe into the river, started praying to God that he has lost his axe, and he and it was very difficult for him to live. Then what happened? The water fairy appeared from the water and asked him what he was praying for. Krishna then told the fairy that he has lost his axe and requested her to help. Children, what did Krishna do? He started praying to God, and suddenly who came up? The water fairy, and she asked, why are you sitting here sad? Then he narrated that he had lost his axe and he was wanting water fairy's help. So the fairy said, I will help you. The water fairy went down and came back with 3 axes, one golden, another silver, and the third one iron axe. Again the water fairy did the same thing which she did with Vishnu. She went down in the water and bought 3 axes, one gold, one silver, and one iron axe. Then the fairy asked him which axe was his. Then again the same question which she asked Vishnu, she asked Krishna, which is your axe? Then what did Krishna do? Krishna in his greed said all the 3 axes were his. See how wicked he was? He said, all 3 are mine. The water fairy became angry at his answer and disappeared into the water without giving him any. Thus, the greedy and wicked Krishna did not gain anything, instead lost his axe. So, what happened to Krishna? He never got any of the axe, and the water fairy was so annoyed, angry, she went back to the water and he went home sad. So children, we should not be, what do we learn from this lesson? We should not be greedy. Seeing other people being rich, we should not be seeing them and get the habit of having their wealth. So this lesson teaches us not to be greedy. So children, here we end this session. I hope you have understood it. We will meet in the next session. Thank you very much.